One thing nobody talks about when it comes to leadership is the need to prioritize yourself over others. Yep, I said it. I believe, actually, I know, we must prioritize self leadership over servant leadership. Here's why. You know that moment on the airplane where the flight attendant tells you to put your mask on before helping other people? It seems counterintuitive, right? There's actually a lot of wisdom in that concept that applies directly to leadership. The simple truth is, we have to lead ourselves before we can effectively lead others. This is especially important in today's super kind of frantic, chaotic, fast paced world. It's really never been more important. So let's dive into the three pillars of self leadership that I call the Alchemist Leader Model. It is the foundation of all the work that I do with my one on one coaching clients and all the students in any of my courses or programs. So let's take a look at that. The first pillar of self leadership in the Alchemist Leader Model is to manage your emotions. I help clients do this through my Soothe Set tools. Now, I realize Soothe Set is a made up word, but I'm trademarking it, so I'm really trying hard to make it a real word. This is just a category of all of the emotional regulation tools and resources that I teach to my clients. I'm going to be teaching you here on the channel to calm your nervous system, to widen your window of tolerance. And this is what really enables you to manage your emotions effectively. So, pillar number one. Pillar number two is to manage your mind. So, simple enough, mindset tools and resources are how you're going to do this. I'm going to share more a little bit later. And then finally, develop your skills, skill set tools and resources. This is what you're going to find in more traditional leadership development programs inside the corporate environment. But here's the thing, this is what I've learned over 25 years of being a learning and leadership development executive and coach is that it is very, very, very challenging to implement any new skills that you obtain through training or any other method if you don't know how to manage your emotions and manage your mind first. So I teach you all three in all of the work that I do, including here in this video. Again, the first pillar is to manage your emotions. When you're triggered, overwhelmed, or emotionally reactive, your capacity to lead diminishes dramatically. I have seen this happen at even the highest levels of executive leadership. Actually, I probably see it most often at the highest levels of leadership, which that's a video in and of itself, I suppose. Even just one emotional hijacking can completely derail the leadership agenda, especially if you're in a C suite position. If you react negatively, inappropriately, emotionally is okay. I'm careful about using like reacting emotionally. Maybe responding emotionally is better than reacting emotionally. But if you do that in the wrong way, it sets the tone and it absolutely crushes psychological safety. That can derail all of the plans that you have as a leader. Um, Personally, before I started doing this work, long before I started doing this work, I remember I was teaching a class. There were probably, I don't know, 15 people or so, 10 to 15 people in this class. We were implementing a new software at the bank where I was employed at the time. Now, this was 25 years ago, and I still recall this story and it still like creates a sense of shame for me. So that's how long I've held on to this. But it was all individual contributors in the session, and there was one branch manager who also had to learn the system. And every single task, step, thing that I was teaching about this new system, he had some negative, snarky remark about it. And this went on, this was, I think, a 5 day class, if I remember correctly. It was a long time. And this went on for what felt like days and days and days. And eventually I snapped and I snapped at him in front of everyone. And when I snapped, I said something along the lines of, "Can you please just say one positive thing about this new system that we're all going to have to implement and start using anyway? Just one positive thing." And I said it, I'm still ashamed. Like, I'm so not proud of the story, but he was completely shocked. The room was shocked, completely went silent. I realized what happened, that I snapped, reacted very poorly. I kind of called a timeout. We took a break. I apologized to him. But the funny thing is I snapped at him because I thought his negative attitude was setting such a terrible tone for all of the people that looked up to him as a member of leadership. But in reality, I was the one standing in the front of the room teaching the content. So I was sort of in a more elevated position, even of him, if you think about it that way. And then I snapped and set an even worse tone for everyone in the room. It was just a terrible experience. Again, 25 years later, I'm still ashamed. What I can say confidently, though, is that I would never allow that to happen again. And it wouldn't happen. I wouldn't even be tempted to ever react like that again because I do this work to manage my emotions. I use my tools, I use my mindset tools. I have built the skills over the years. But this story still bothers me. I'm still embarrassed about it. I'm still ashamed that that had happened. And that was well before I had a coach, before I discovered coaching. So again, will not happen again, but sharing with you to say that it happens to all of us, right? So I guess for you, think about a recent time when you felt emotionally overwhelmed at work. Maybe you snapped at someone too. Again, been there. Not proud, been there. Maybe you just made a hasty decision or you shut down completely. Maybe somebody snapped at you and you shut down completely. Think about how effective you were in that moment, whether you reacted, whether you shut down. Were you at your best self? Were you an effective leader in that moment? Probably not, right? So, cultivating emotional awareness and regulation truly is not a luxury. It is a leadership necessity. And here's what that looks like in action. So, first, you need to recognize your emotional triggers and patterns. What situations consistently knock you off balance? For some leaders, it might be feeling disrespected or misunderstood or not listened to. For others, it might just be being under a lot of time pressure or feeling uncertain or unsafe in the situation. Next, create space between the stimulus and the response. This might just mean taking a few deep breaths before hitting reply on that email that you need to send that kind of triggered you and made you feel frustrated or angry, whatever that disruptive emotion was. It could mean briefly stepping away from a tense conversation. It could be as simple as pausing and doing some intentional breath work, 3 deep breaths in and out before you continue with the situation that you're in. Whatever works for you, it doesn't need to be a lengthy, drawn out process, but create space between the stimulus and the response and allow yourself that space so that you can respond versus react. The third part of really being able to manage your emotions effectively is to develop longer term habits and practices to help you widen your window of tolerance and return to center whenever you're thrown off balance and to make it harder to throw you off balance. That's what widening the window of tolerance is about. It's really building your resilience and your capacity to handle stressful, challenging situations. So, for some people, this might be a meditation practice or a midday walk or even a specific phrase that you repeat to yourself when you're feeling triggered. For me, this might seem silly, but for me, my go to phrases are I'm safe or nothing has gone wrong here. I just kind of accept all the challenging, stressful situations as part of the process. It's part of my growth and evolution as a leader. So when I remind myself nothing has gone wrong here, this is just part of the process to becoming a better leader, everything kind of settles down for me and I become more grounded and centered. So I think the most important thing is to remember that emotional regulation isn't about suppressing or pushing down your quote unquote negative emotions or what I like to call your disruptive emotions. It's really more about just allowing them to be there and experiencing them without being controlled by them. So being aware of them, acknowledging them, allowing them to be there without being controlled by them. That's the key. This ability alone, truly, this skill set alone will change your life as a leader. The second pillar of the Alchemist leader model is managing your mind. Your thoughts create your reality as a leader. When your mind is cluttered with worry and judgment and scattered thinking, your leadership is going to suffer. I have coached leaders who were brilliant strategically, but sabotaged themselves with their negative thought patterns that undermined their confidence and ability to articulate their ideas, their feedback, all of those most important things for us as leaders with clarity. So here's what managing your mind looks like in practice. First, become aware of your thought patterns and mental narratives. What stories do you tell yourself about your leadership? about your abilities, about your capacity? What stories did you tell yourself about your team, their abilities, their capacity, about what's possible? Many of these stories run on autopilot without you ever thinking about them. The most important thing we can do when it comes to managing our mind is slowing down enough to look for these negative thought patterns. They're just habituated thought patterns in your mind that have been running on autopilot for weeks, months, years, decades. So slow down, look for them. I always say awareness precedes change. This is the awareness part of the process. Second, question the assumptions that limit your effectiveness. Is it really true that you don't have the time? Is it really true that your team member can't handle that responsibility? Often, our biggest limitations are the ones that we have never challenged. And if you're thinking, yeah, it is true, actually, then take it a step further. Ask yourself, even if it is true, does it serve me to keep thinking this thought? What is the benefit of thinking this line of thinking? What is the value in having this thought pattern? If you can't find one, it's time to move on to step three, which is to intentionally redirect your focus to what matters most. Your attention is your most valuable resource as a leader. What deserves more of it? What deserves less? If you are problem focused, you are going to find more problems. You are going to create more problems with your thinking. Redirect your mind to be solution focused. Your brain will answer the questions you ask. So ask what's working, ask what will work, ask what's the next best step. Don't ask yourself questions that are going to give yourself a negative, disruptive answer. Ask yourself questions that are going to be solution focused so you can move on. The quality of your leadership is directly tied to the quality of your thinking and the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. By managing your mind, you're going to make better decisions and communicate more clearly. And you're going to inspire others to do the same. The third pillar of the Alchemist leader model is developing your skills. Your growth directly impacts your team's ceiling. When you stop evolving, so does your leadership impact. I have seen teams totally transform after their leader invested in developing a specific skill, whether that was giving better feedback, facilitating more effective meetings, or improving their strategic focus. The first step in this pillar is to honestly assess your strength and your growth edges. What are you naturally good at? What areas of leadership consistently challenge you? Self awareness is the foundation for growth. So, second, seek feedback with genuine curiosity. The most effective leaders I know are hungry for feedback, and not just from their bosses, but from their teams, their peers, and even their customers or clients. And third, commit to continuous learning and skill development. This might mean reading more leadership books, working with a coach, taking a class, or enrolling in a program, or simply just practicing a specific skill until it becomes second nature. Remember, leadership is a practice, not a destination. The leaders who make the biggest impact consider themselves lifelong learners. So there you have it, the three pillars of self-leadership, the Alchemist leader model. Managing your emotions with Sue's set tools, managing your mind with mindset tools, and developing your skills with skill set tools and resources. You get all three here through one-on-one coaching with me or any training or program that I ever offer. It is holistic and I include all three every single time. So I'll leave you with this. Self leadership is not self centeredness. It's not about putting yourself first because you matter more than other people. It's about cultivating your capacity to show up as your best self so you can truly be of service. I cannot stress this enough. The most impactful leaders are not the ones who sacrifice themselves to the point of burnout. They're the ones that cultivate self awareness, emotional regulation, and the inner resources to remain calm, confident, and focused in even the most challenging situations. Your leadership is going to create a ripple effect no matter what. Whether you prioritize self leadership will determine if it's a positive or a negative one. If you liked this video and found it helpful, make sure to like, comment, share, all the things to make sure other people are aware of this resource as well. And in the comments below, please let me know which pillar of the Alchemist Leader model you need to focus on most right now. I want to create more videos to help you do that. Remember, alchemist leaders don't just adapt to challenges, they transform them. Pause for a moment today and ask yourself, what is the alchemy opportunity here? What does this make possible? Keep turning your unique perspective into leadership gold. I'll see you next week.